Recording in progress.
Okay, so I'm going to be trying to do this image. So I've just kind of roughly drawn out foreground, middle ground, background. And I chose to use wet paint, wet pigment. I'm missing what color? Oh, phthalo. I have a little bit of phthalo on this plate here where I have also pre-mixed some greens, even though they don't look green, they are. So this is a preliminary test I did because I haven't done any painting using mist before. Well, I did a few, but not like this. So you want to maintain some of the white of your page for the mist. And what I'm going to do is when I look at these colors are a little bit different. That's okay. I think that also because we're mixing all of our colors, that sometimes some of the pigments tend to separate. I chose to use primarily ultramarine blue because this is a hazy image, and what's going to happen is the granulation from the ultramarine blue is going to naturally give it a more, enhance that effect. So, well, I won't worry about that now. I got some paint on the top part. First thing that I'm going to do is pre-mix some gray because I see a lot of gray in there, and I'm going to use ultramarine blue. This blue was pretty dried out. It was the end of my tube. I'm going to have to start a new one. And orange. Even though that's yellow, it leans really red, and so it's kind of orangish. And this is going to get me close to gray pretty quick because they're complementary colors. And that's too orange. Need some more blue, and I'm mixing a lot because I can make it lean blue and I can make it lean green, and so this is kind of leaning green. I'm going to add a little bit of water. I don't want to dilute it too much because I'm going to put water on the page and it's going to automatically get more dilute. So I'm pretty sure this is a green, but I'm going to test it out right now just to see. Yeah, that's leaning green, so I need some red. And I'm going to use the magenta, I think. That's what I used in the other one, and I like the way the combination of the colors that I used separated. So this is leaning too red. We need some more yellow. And this is getting too brown. Maybe I should have pre-mixed this. Okay, I think I'm getting close to what I want. Okay, test it again. And dilute a little bit. I added a lot of pigment. It's still kind of brownish, which tells me I need to add more blue. So I'm going to just start my new tube. Actually, I only have Schmincke ultramarine blue, and this is ultramarine finest. Oh, here's ultramarine blue deep. Okay, I do have a new one. Ultramarine blue finest, made by Schmincke, is their least granulating blue, and that's why I didn't want to use that one. So, and why I bought another one of those. So, more blue. And before I add more blue, I'm going to test it on here. Let's see. Okay, that's pretty gray. And I think I want kind of a blue-gray. So I'm getting there, but I'm going to add a lot more blue. Because that image does lean blue. The mist in the sky is bluish. Alright, so I'm going to use the greens that I mixed sort of for the darker bottom part here, and these for this color for up here. So I do want to test it when it's more dilute. I think I need another piece of paper. I think that is a good gray. So, and I'm going to be adding more colors to it as I go because I have my palette out here. So the first thing I'm going to do is wet this entire page. And since I already have water, paint on that brush, I'm going to go ahead and use one of my mop brushes. This is number 10, and this is actually natural hair. I don't really buy natural hair anymore. When we have time that we have to dry, I might talk about brushes a bit again. So I'm gonna just put water on all of it. And when I did this one, I thought maybe this shouldn't just be clean water, that it should have a little bit of a tint to it, because the white of the page was just too white. So trying to saturate the page evenly. And what you want to do is, I'm going to blot this where I dripped. And what you can do is you can tape paper over your top part if you're not going to do yours simultaneously. I decided it's kind of hard to do them simultaneously, especially in a video. So can you see the sheen? You want to look for the sheen to be even on your entire page. You want that much wetness. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start putting in, and it's going to be hard for me to look at the photo all the time, but I'm going to start. It's kind of dark here. Most of the mist is here. There's mist over here. So I'm going to start by, again, looking at my wetness, and I think I can use a little more wet. The paper tends to soak it up. So you don't want to let it sit too long because it'll start to buckle if you have too much water on it, or even if you just have as much as I have. Once I start painting on it, I'll be moving it around, and it's not going to tend to want to have the water pool and buckle areas. What happens is it buckles, and then in the depressions you get more. So this here, I'm going to lose my lines, but that's okay. And then there's dark here. And up here it's much lighter, so blotting my brush on a rag, and then there's areas of mist in here and areas of dark. Actually, I think this should be lighter. So remember, have a rag around so that you can lift areas. And this seems a little dark, so I'm going to move that around and bring in maybe a little bit here and here. And if you feel like your paper is drying too fast, one thing that you can do is keep a spray bottle. This is one I bought on Amazon. I think I paid like $9, $10. And you can buy yourself more time. So what I'm going to do now is take a brush that is clean but wet, and I'm going to move some of this around and kind of enhance that, the mist kind of thing happening, and get rid of some of those little hair-like structures that happen. Let's see here. Get rid of the hard edges. And maybe I want to lift some of this because this area is lighter. And okay, kind of have a ridge here, and I want to make sure that my brush is wet, so my paper is wet, so I'm gonna not put a whole bunch of water. My brush is just kind of damp to make sure this ridge line isn't going to have a hard edge. And I think this needs to get blotted. The ultramarine doesn't lift as well, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put down some mostly clean water and lift it again while it's wet. And it lifted a little bit more, enough to what I want, so that's good. And this is kind of dark, so but if I lift it, I just end up with blue, so I think I'm going to go back in and clean this brush and come back in. Here is this ridge line, and I can kind of pick up paint from other areas on the page because I do want this pale. And I think I want to soften some of these edges, but still have it lighter up there. Soften these edges with just water on a brush, or a damp brush, not even water on it. Sorry, I'm mumbling. All right. I think I'm going to add some water spray to keep that wet and start putting in some darks here. But I think I want to make sure that bottom is wet before I start introducing some greens into there. Need another piece of scrap paper. So this is that green I showed you on my plate that really looked red, but you can see it's a pale green. So I'm going to start with that down here, putting in these areas. And this is why I didn't put anything under my page to make it come up, because if I did, I wouldn't be able to get these sort of areas to go up. When I did it before, they moved more, and I think because my paper was more wet. So I think I have lost too much of my white. I'm going to leave some here, and bring some of that over, pull out some paint, I think here, and maybe here. And I think like here. So if I kind of drag it a little like that, it adds to the idea of the misty. Up here, I don't like the way all those little hairline things are happening. Some of them would work, but not the way it is. So I think this is too blue. I wish it was more gray, but that's okay. Gonna take some of the water off the brush and soften here. Remove some of the paint in this area so that it's suggesting the foggy area. And then I could put in some trees there maybe later. Soften this area. And what is that? And going to wet it again. And I don't really have this looking like hill and sky, although the only area you really see sky is here. And I think I need to differentiate here from there so that it doesn't all look like sky. And I think I can do that just by pulling that out, leaving that blue, and giving this more gray. So gray. I think that is more gray. So it's a little too intense. I'm going to dilute it a little. Give myself a box over here that I can work with this dark pigment that I'm now diluting. And I will test the dilution. I think that's good, because it's also going to have the water that's on the paper. I think I dropped something there, a hair or something. Okay, so there's hills here. And there's mist in here as well. And now these trees can use some darkening, and maybe with that, don't like what's happening up there so much. So this is now a brush that just has some damp water, and I'm even kind of pulling some of the water off of it so it's not wet. And you can see how everything keeps moving, and I have so much moisture on here that I've had a buckle. So I'm going to kind of take advantage of that and use it to wipe away where there's mist. And this foreground, I think I'm going to leave things kind of the way they are up there. Maybe, yeah, and add some darker from that gray that I mixed. Might have to mix more of it. We'll see. No, I think that's good. And I think that's too dark there, so my printer's not working, so I wasn't able to print a photo, which would have been a lot more helpful. Okay, I took some paint and it's too intense for what I wanted to do, but I cleaned the brush off and it's more dilute now, so I think it can work. So I'm just kind of suggesting a grouping of some trees in the back in the mist, and think that I'm going to take my rag and enhance that sort of idea of the mist going through, but I don't want to leave that hard edge, so back to a clean, damp brush, and soften this edge. I think this needs a little bit of softening, and I don't think it should be quite so brilliant. I think it's more muted. And this wet and wet can use a little bit of cleanup right here. And I think I'm going to let that dry and then come back into it. But I might first darken the darker area. I lost my image, okay. There it is. I think there's like a break in the trees here that I'm not showing. And that's okay, those can be further in the background trees. And I think I do want to put some more dark in here. I'm going to use my flat brush, the 1-inch wash brush. Just trying to kind of define as much of the landscape as I can with this wet and wet. And there it is.